and welcome to Challenge Solutions. My name is Macy, and in this video I'll be giving you some ideas for Christmas activities that you can do with your blind or visually impaired child. These activities are geared toward parents and not so much toward teachers or people in the school setting. They can be done as a group with siblings, but for the blind child to really benefit from most of these activities, they are going to need a lot of one-on-one attention, so be sure they're really involved if you do decide to do these activities as a family. The first activity is ice skating. You may or may not have an ice rink near you, but if you ever get the chance to take your blind child ice skating, don't pass it up. Until I actually put on ice skates and got out onto the rink, I didn't really understand the concept of skating on ice. It's very likely that your child also doesn't really understand how skating works unless they've been. But obviously, you don't just want to turn your blind child loose on a public ice rink. That definitely would not end well. This is really going to work best if you have someone there who is good at skating so that they can stay with your child. So if you know anyone who enjoys ice skating, it would probably be a good idea to bring them along so they can help your child. But now for the big question. How are we actually going to do this? Well, for me, it's easiest to just go sighted guide while I'm skating. So I would grab the person's elbow and we would just skate off from there. Keep in mind that I personally have only been ice skating a few times in my life, so I'm no professional and I don't know anyone who is. These are just suggestions, but they worked well for me. I think that using a tether would probably be too long for this because you want your child to be as close to the sighted person as possible. You should be prepared for your child to fall down though. Most sighted people fall down the first time they skate, and a lot of blind people have worse balance than the average sighted person, so your child is probably going to fall down, and probably a lot. But that is okay. It is okay for blind children to fall down, so you don't have to feel like a terrible parent if that happens. But you do need to be sure that whoever you put with them, if it is not you, is going to be responsible enough to keep them safe. And if you can, try to get the rink as empty as possible. I know that isn't always possible, but if you can rent out the rink or anything like that, it's going to be best because then they don't have other people that they're trying to watch out for, and you can really spend one-on-one time with your blind child, or whoever's helping them can spend one-on-one time with them and not have to worry about other people running into them or vice versa. I know this really does sound like a lot of work, but your child will probably appreciate having this experience at least once, just so they understand the concept. So if someone talks about going ice skating, they can say, oh yeah, I did that, and they understand the feeling and the ice and how the blades feel and the shoes on their feet. I think it's good to give your blind child as many opportunities as possible, and this is just one great holiday activity that they can do and participate in if you have the people and the space available to do it. The next activity is simply Christmas music. Unlike with most holidays, Christmas culture does center a lot around music. And this is really good for people who are blind because music is something that we can experience just like anyone else would experience it. A lot of blind people are musically inclined, but even if your child isn't or doesn't love music with a passion like a lot of us do, it is good to expose them to this music so they can participate in the culture that surrounds it. If you have a group of people, maybe go Christmas caroling. I always really enjoyed that as a child. And that's an activity that any blind person can participate in. If that's not really your thing, maybe help your child learn a Christmas song on an instrument or help them learn to sing it. Even just play the songs as you do chores or hang out around the house. Maybe even get some friends together and have Christmas karaoke. Just give your blind child the opportunity to know and love those songs because that is something they can know and love just like anyone else would. They can feel music just like the rest of the world, so it's important that when music does tie into culture, you at least expose them to that. The next activity is decorating. I did mention this in our Halloween activities video, but you can kind of take it to the next level at Christmas time. Like I said in that video, blind people cannot see all the decorations around them, so they may not understand which decorations are appropriate for which places. Try giving them specific instructions, like, Let's put this reindeer in the middle of this shelf because it's tall and everything else on the shelf is short. Let's be sure we face it outward so everyone can see it. Instructions like these tell the child exactly what to do and why they're doing it that way. Now they understand that you don't want to put all your tall decorations right next to each other, that you want to spread them out and have variety, and that you want to be sure that you're facing the decorations so the decorative parts are outward, so that everyone who can see will see them. Depending on their age and how much they've decorated previously, you can start asking questions like, where do you think we should put this reindeer? This is not really a time where anything your child does is right. It's okay to politely say, well, we already have a lot of tall decorations on the piano. Where else could we put this? The same thing goes with the Christmas tree. Teach your child how to space out the ornaments on the tree and put the nicest ones in the front. Teach them how to wrap the lights, and remember that the goal is for them to eventually be decorating their own house. So when they are decorating something, think about whether or not what they're doing would be appropriate if they were an adult decorating their future home. And just to be sure things stay light and cheery, this is also another opportunity to work in some Christmas music. My mom and I always used to decorate the house while listening to Christmas music, and it just made for a great mood and really put us in the Christmas spirit. So your goal is to create an atmosphere like that for your child while teaching them how to decorate and place objects in places where they look good, because we are capable of doing that as long as we understand the concepts associated with decorating. The next activity I have is shopping for friends and family. This is such a good learning opportunity for blind and visually impaired children. I have done this every year with my TVI and O&M instructor for the past 10 years, and I've done it with the other blind students in my area. Over the years, I've learned a lot, and I've seen a lot of other students learn from it. If you go out to a store, this is a great time to teach store layout. For example, you can explain that Christmas-themed items are usually located at the front of the store, and things like toys are usually near the back. This is actually how I learned the layout of my local Walmart, and that information has been very beneficial for me throughout the years. But it's 2020, and not everyone feels safe going out, so if you don't, this can also be a great opportunity to teach online shopping skills. If your child is old enough to use a screen reader, you can sit with them and describe the objects they're looking at while they actually handle the control of the device. But if your student is younger or just not quite there yet, you can simply use the phone or computer yourself and describe what you're doing and what you're buying and looking at to your child. Be sure to explain how the products will be shipped to them in the mail and let them open the boxes when they get there. Regardless of how you choose to do your shopping, this is also a great opportunity to teach money skills. Give your child the budget before they start and have them calculate the prices of everything they buy and stay within their budget. If you do go to a store, have your child check out by themselves and pay in cash. Teach them how to fold and identify their money beforehand, and if you want a video on folding or counting money as a blind person, we can make that happen, so let us know. If you're shopping online, you can purchase with your card and go ahead and have the child pay you back in cash that they have folded and counted. You can even explain to them how you're paying if you want, but no matter how you do the shopping trip, it's going to teach so many valuable financial skills, which are going to be very important as your child gets older and more independent. The next activity is crafts. There are a lot of Christmas craft ideas that are great for blind children. Actually, most activities that sighted children do for Christmas are already great for blind children. You can make Christmas ornaments with beads or Play-Doh or other clay and cookie cutters. You can make Christmas ornaments with just about anything. Be creative. Everything is textured. You can dip things in glue and then glitter if you are okay with having that mess on your hands. You can make things with beads, you can make things with ribbon. There are endless possibilities with ornaments, and all of those are going to be texture based, so your child will be able to participate in that. If you do make clay ornaments, yes, let your child paint their own clay ornament, but maybe give them just one color so it does not turn into a brown paint glob. You can also decorate stockings with jewels or textured stickers, or you can have them put their name on their stocking with stick-on raised letters. That is a great opportunity to teach spelling and to teach them how to identify print letters, which is an important skill. You can also use stick-on jewels and have them arrange them into the braille dots that would make up their name, if you or whoever is helping them is familiar enough with the Braille code to know if they're doing it right. If they're a little older, you can also help them melt wax and add scents to make candles for home, or you can use those for gifts. There is honestly an endless supply of Christmas craft ideas that you can choose from, and almost all of them can teach a blind child something valuable, whether that be literacy or fine motor skills or just basic crafting skills like using glue or peeling the backs off of stickers. Plus, it's always cool to have crafts that you made as a child that you can look back on when you get older. So really take this one and run with it, because pretty much whatever you do is probably going to be a lot of fun and produce something that's fun to look back on. The next activity I have is baking. A lot of people bake around Christmas time, and this shouldn't be any different with your blind child. You can have them bake with you just like any other sighted child would. You can let them measure ingredients and put them into bowls. You can have them use cookie cutters if you're making sugar cookies, and then they can frost them afterward, which is always fun. If they're fluent in technology, you can have them find their own recipe online to use. You can have them set timers with a phone or a smart home device or whatever they prefer to use. Of course, if they're old enough, have them use the oven. They're going to have to learn how to do those things eventually, so it's best to teach them yourself. You can also teach them how to identify ingredients in your cabinet with instructions like, can you find the salt? It's in a tall, round container. And let them try to find the ingredient and identify it themselves. Every person is going to need to know how to bake in their life, to some extent at least, and the earlier you start with your child, the easier it's going to be for them in the future. The next activity is make Christmas cards. There are so many ways to do this. You could make a tactile outline of a Christmas tree or some other Christmassy shape with wiki sticks, or a tactile drawing board and have the child color it in with crayons or colored pencils, or you could use puff paint and they could use normal paint, or you could all use puff paint. There are a million combinations there. If they're a little older, you can help them make their own tactile Christmas tree or outline of a shape with whatever you choose. You can also buy stickers or stick-on jewels to decorate the card. If you make a Christmas tree, I love to add the stick-on jewels as ornaments once I've already colored, so that's an option. You can also have them use a Perkins Brailler or a Mountbatten to create a Braille Christmas shape. So you would actually find a template which would tell you how many spaces to go and which dots to push. And when you're finished, you have a Christmas shape on your paper. Paths to Literacy has some great templates that you can use online for free, so I'm going to link those in the description. If your child is fluent in Braille, you can also have them Braille the messages on the Christmas cards, and then you can transcribe them into print so that your family members have a cool little Braille message from their blind relative. Most people love getting Braille things from me all the time, so it's definitely a fun Christmas activity that people will actually enjoy and appreciate receiving. The next activity is wrapping presents. This is a skill that everyone is going to need at some point or another, but it can be really difficult for a blind person to wrap presents and actually have them look pretty enough to go under the tree by the end of it. Again, the younger you start with this, the easier it's going to be when the child gets older. You can start just by having the child tape the folds that you make. So you would just explain that they need to put the tape long ways, sideways along the line or crease of the paper rather than, putting it across where the thinnest part is bridging the gap, if that makes sense. Be sure they're putting the tape on in the right direction, basically. And when they get a little older, start having them do the folding, and then you can tape, so you're still with them, but they're doing the majority of the hard part of the presents. You should show them how to kind of fold the paper and how to get the wrinkles out, and teach them how to make good, nice, tight creases while they're doing that. Then when they're ready, you can have them start wrapping the presents completely by themselves. I will say though that this is not an area where you can expect perfection from a blind person of any age. I have been helping with presents for as long as I can remember, and I still cannot wrap them perfectly and have them just be these beautiful packages when I'm finished. Gift bags and decorative boxes are a blind person's best friend in the holiday season, but if your child is ever in a bind and needs to wrap something by hand, they should know how. So cut them some slack in this area and help them as best you can, but know that they probably are not going to have presents that are as perfect and pretty as yours if you are a good wrapper. It's also worth noting that if you have a child who is completely blind, you're going to want to get paper that has glitter or some kind of texture on it so that they can tell which side needs to be facing outward. You should also work with your child on filling out the name tags on the presents, but this is another kind of complicated area. If they're old enough to Braille, I recommend using Braille labeling paper, which is sticky on the back, and just having them Braille the names of the people that the presents are to. But if your child is helping with presents that they are not going to be passing out, so maybe for a family gatherings, you should print a name tag to go along with the Braille one, because no matter how good your child's print is, there's no way for them to know where the lines are on the name tags or which places they're supposed to write on, and sometimes you end up writing in the middle of the dark green Christmas tree that is printed on the stamp, and then it's completely illegible no matter how nice your print is. I will say that you can buy Braille Christmas tags on the internet. I have never done it because I've never really seen a need, but if you are interested in that, you can just Google Braille Christmas tags and you'll find a lot of options there, so you can look at those as an option as well. But wrapping presents, you can also teach your child to tie bows on them or just have them put the stick-on bows on. But if you do buy the pre-made stick-on bows, be sure that you buy packages where every color in the package will match your wrapping paper, because if your child is totally blind, they are not going to be able to tell which color they are getting, and that could lead to them putting, I don't know, a green bow on a maroon and silver wrapping paper or something crazy like that. So be sure that you buy, as best you can, colors that are going to match whatever wrapping paper you end up buying. And again, that is kind of a lot of work on your part that you have to do, buying the textured paper and the colored bows that will only match that paper. But if you think about it, wrapping presents will probably not be your child's main way of, presenting them. They just need to have that skill in case they do ever need it. The next activity I have is Christmas movies. Just like I mentioned in the Halloween video, movies are a large part of our culture today. And just like I said in that video, every blind person is not crazy about movies. You don't have to make your child sit down and watch Elf or any other Christmas movie for that matter, but you should encourage them and give them a chance to like these movies. You should describe them if your child wants to watch with you. Be sure that your child is comfortable with asking what's going on in the movie while you watch as a family. I know it can get annoying having to describe all of that, but you should always take the time to be sure that your blind child knows what's going on and that they're as much a part of that process as anyone else in your family, if they're actually interested and they want to be a part of that process. As blind teenagers and children, we really do miss out on a lot of today's culture because so much of it is based on internet memes and things that we can't read or see or understand. So the more of a chance we can get to be involved in that kind of culture, the easier it is to socialize with our sighted peers. So it's always a good idea to put that culture out there as best you can if your child wants to be involved in it, and give them that chance. And our final activity is writing letters to Santa. This was always one of my favorite activities as a child. You can have your child write the letter in Braille or type it on a computer depending on their skill set and your ability to transcribe Braille or have someone else do that. Hopefully, if you cannot read Braille, you have a TVI who can transcribe it for you, but again, sometimes that is not the case. And if you don't, you can always have your child read the letter out loud to you before you put it in the envelope, just so that you know at least the basis of what it's supposed to say, even if you can't see the spelling and punctuation in it. When your child is finished writing the letter, you should have them put it in an envelope and mail it to the North Pole. Be sure that they participate in every step of this process, so you can show them how to seal an envelope and have them make the address label. So you can do that in one of two ways. If your child is young and does not use technology for a lot of their work, you can have them practice their print and just print the label themselves. Because yes, print writing is an important skill for a blind person to have. But if you are confident in their print writing abilities, or if they are just older and fluent in technology, have them print the label for their letter. You can make these in Microsoft Word or probably any other word processor. This is probably what they're going to use if they ever do have to mail a letter in real life, so it is definitely important, but it's also important that the child knows where the information goes on the envelope, so be sure you talk about that. Also, if your child does not know their own address, this is another great opportunity to teach that as well. When they've addressed the letter, let them put it in the mailbox, and if they aren't already familiar with the mail system and how that works, go ahead and explain that to them. Maybe even have Santa or an elf write them a letter in return. You can really do and teach a lot with this activity, so just kind of make it your own and do whatever you feel is going to be most beneficial for your child. But that was the last tip I had for you. I really hope you found this video helpful and you're going to do some of these activities. If you did find it helpful or enjoy it, please give us a thumbs up so that the YouTube algorithm can continue to know that we exist and push our content out to other people. And subscribe if you want to see more content like this. If you have any questions or comments or suggestions for future videos, you can contact us in the comment section of this video or in the contact form at challengesolutions.org. Keep an eye out on the Challenge Solutions blog, podcast, and YouTube channel for more content like this. Thank you for watching, and Merry Christmas!